I had served for some time as the vice president at Bhaktivedanta Manor, and I was with my son's mother, Jiva, Vishnu Swami's mom, and that sort of thing. But at one point, because in that position, I got a chance to serve a lot of devotees, and one of them was Gopal Krishna Maharaj, and he needed someone to take the position of temple president in Bombay. And so I was invited to go to Bombay. And not to get into the whole story of my life and all that, but as far as Gurudev is concerned, I remember, receiving Tamal Krishna Maharaj, receiving Giriraj Swami, and the devotees at the temple there, who were mostly Indian devotees. There were a lot of Western devotees, but the majority, 200 devotees at least, were from India. And whenever the name of Srila Narayan Maharaj came up, he was referred to as a great friend of ISKCON, and that, because he had helped the devotees, ISKCON, in a court case against Srila Prabhupada's family. In that original lecture in 1968, Srila Prabhupada had mentioned that when he was married, he had 3 children, but when he became a sannyasi and a guru at that time in 1968, he had 300 children. And he actually asked, when he composed this verse and translated it, that all the devotees present sign the letter. And you can actually hear on the recording the different devotees signing their name. You can hear them, So he sent this verse and like that. But again, I think I was blessed and protected in that when Srila Narayan Maharaj's name came up, it was, even though I wasn't even sure what he looked like, in my mind it was associated with someone who was a great friend of ISKCON, that in reciprocation the devotees in Bombay had made some arrangement with the Hinduja family so that he can have an operation at the Hinduja hospital and things like that. So the only thing I ever heard was positive things, So years later, when at the manor, I had come back for some reason, and I was back at the manor, and there was really no movement in the way we know it now, with lots of devotees from lots of countries who follow Gurudev, who are initiated by Gurudev. Gurudev hadn't started his tour. We're speaking about, I'm trying to remember the years, but as far as I knew, and we're talking now around the early 90s, the only real devotees in England was Vishaka Didi, and she was with Manan Mohan at the time, and there was Prema Vilas, who did some translation work later on, and he was with Yashoda Didi, who was here the last time I was here, sitting in the corner. She goes way back, and there was, who else was there? The Indulekha used to come, Indulekha Didi, like that. So it was a very, very small group of devotees, and because at that time I was outside of ISKCON because of my marriage to my wife, and it was controversial because I left Jiva's mother. We never got along, and but there was a very small number of devotees associated with Gurudev. But whenever I spoke, especially Manan Mohan, he was so profound, whatever he said. Or if they read something to me that Gurudev had said, I found it so special. Now I was hearing something specific about different devotees in Krishna Leela that I didn't know. And I didn't realize that although I read Krishna book and I had been a devotee, I didn't really know the residents of Vrindavan, and that this Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj really, really knew a lot about the devotees in the spiritual world, like that. And these devotees were naturally very enthusiastic about him. And Vishaka Didi, she especially had a great way of speaking. We used to go from where I lived in Luton on the train all the way to Croydon. I remember seeing Gravesend. I don't know if we got off at Gravesend, but the fact that we passed it or got off there made me think about how far we were going, you know. And we went up to a flat, and they had a big picture of Gurudev, even bigger than this, on a chair, and I think they had a pair of shoes as well. And it was a very small flat. They had Tulsi, and Indulekha and Vishaka Didi, and we would struggle through the songs, because, you know, I was the only one apparently who could play the Mridanga, and I didn't play it very well, especially because the beats were different. They were like 1-2 beats, you know. But we managed to get through. But the atmosphere was very, 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 very sweet. It was very, very nice. In fact, my daughter Radha had her first grain ceremony at Vishaka's house with Manu Mohan, and her first grain was Maha from Srila Gurudeva, like that, you know. And I still hadn't met Gurudev, except for that time in Keshavaji Gautam, and only because of the Vyasa-san picture, and I had an idea of what he looked like. But Vishaka Didi used to tell so many stories about when she visited Keshavi Gaudiya and when she had to leave, and one time Gurudev called out from the roof to her, hope against hope, don't, you know, things like that. Very sweet stories about her relationship with Gurudev, and that she shared with us, and really, and like that. So what I'm saying is that really I had like an Agyata Sukriti when I was a Bhakta, hearing about Bhakti Pragnaya Keshava Maharaj, then another Agyata Sukriti, but now I was associating with some of Gurudev's devotees, and of course now later into the 90s things began to get stirred up, because Giriraj Swami and Tamal Krishna Goswami had become attached to Gurudev, and a lot of people didn't like that. They felt that was somehow disloyal to Srila Prabhupada. And so, you know, things were beginning to stir up, and said, you know, but luckily my first impressions was that this is a pure devotee, and no one had a problem before. And I had already went through seeing offenses committed to Sridhar Maharaj, and devotees falling down because of them. I won't mention them because I don't want to also commit sadhuninda, but there was one of the original Zonacharyas from the Vyasa side criticized Sridhar Maharaj, and very soon after he fell. And I remember when I was with Gopal Krishna Goswami in India, he had heart trouble. He was always saying you have to be very, very careful about Vaishnava Aparad, hearing Vaishnava Aparad. He says, I think I had heart trouble because I heard Vaishnava Aparad and I didn't say anything. So all these things impressed me very much, you know. So I wasn't so quick to jump on the bandwagon and just, you know, or even allow myself to hear things like that. I had a nice impression from his devotees, had a nice impression of Mathura, and like that. And also, so many things that happened, you know, the zonal acharya thing, the Ritvik thing, devotees falling down, who had taken service as gurus, like that. And so, you know, I was, wait a minute, you know, a little more, less reactionary, and let's think about this, slow down, and that sort of thing. But then I saw a video of Srila Gurudev on Parikrama, and something resounded in me as soon as I saw him. He was standing and devotees were passing by and offering obeisances, and he was like, you know, and I thought, I instinctively, the super soul sort of said to me that, you know, he was the hope for the movement, you know, for the problems we were having, and I felt that instinctively, like that.
He came to Watford in '96, and my dad took me to go and see him, and I think my mum and my sister stayed behind because he was going to come stay at our house a few days later, so my mum stayed back to prepare, and I skipped school for a few days and went to Watford. And I was thinking about this the other day, actually, just thinking about my first memory of Gurudev and how different it is from like the last memory where there were so many people, and he was staying in some sort of hall or house. I don't know what it was. My memory's a bit blurry and a little bit like ethereal and magical. It's got that 7-year-old filter to it. I remember walking in, and there was a kitchen on the left, and then there was this hall, and Tunga Vidya and Vrinda were in the kitchen. It was the first time I remember meeting them. but they knew who I was, and they were like welcoming me, and they were stirring this massive pot of food, and it was really exciting for me because we never really grew up around ISKCON that much. We went to temples occasionally, but I didn't actually spend that much time in devotee spaces. And then I don't know if Gurudev was already sat there or if he arrived sometime after I arrived. But the next thing I remember is him sitting on the chair in front of me, facing the door, and he's in the back of the wall, and there's these big windows behind him, and I just remember the light shining through, like, and everything seeming so light. Like, I don't think I saw his effulgence, but in my memory it's there. It's very, the whole space was just really light, and he was just sat there just smiling and smiling, and maybe there was one devotee sat down at his feet playing Mridanga, maybe two. And I went up to him and paid obeisances, and I don't know if he said anything, but all I remember is like how light it was and how much he was smiling. And then I think that was just for a darshan, and then in the evening he gave class or something. But I don't know, I like thinking about that. It's only this year that I realized that I can remember, that I have a memory of his effulgence. I never like noticed that before. He always supported me and my sister and all of his other daughters that I know to be strong. And he was on Srimati Radhika's team, and he kind of really reflected that in this world as well he really, I don't know, he would always give so much encouragement to his daughters to be strong and to support themselves and to preach and to really dedicate as much of themselves as they can without thinking that had to go through someone else. And whenever I made attempts to do that, he encouraged it. I remember I think I was 16, and I was going to the Bhaja festival, and I once decided that I was just going to ask Gurudev if I could have some personal seva. And so I wrote him an email, and I was like, I'm coming to Bhaja, can I do some personal seva for you while I'm there? And he replied, like, I think the same day, and was like, yes, just speak to Vrinda when you arrive. And then I told someone afterwards, and they were like, oh my God, you asked Gurudev directly, you didn't go through Madhav Maharaj or Brajanath? And I was like, no. Like, it was always a surprise to me when there was this idea that you had to go through some sort of hierarchy, because Gurudev never gave me that impression. He always gave the impression that it's me and you, and this is everything else. And I feel like he must have done that for so many devotees, that feeling of like, it's us two, and we're in it together. And yeah, he really supported his daughters. My mom told me that when I was 8, she asked him if I should go to Gurukul, if my sister and I should go to Gurukul, and he gave different instructions to different people, but he told her that he really wanted us to be as educated as possible and to go to university. And I don't know, I feel like I feel very indebted to him for that, because not so much like, the university, but not so much that, but just the support that he showed to give, how do I say it? To make me feel like I have some of my own strength and autonomy in my spiritual life. And I know that we don't. I know that we're not independent and everything, but he made me feel like I can try. Like I don't just have to sit back and wait for some mercy to come my way. That he supports us in our attempts, and he supports us in our efforts.
Remembering the first time how I met Srila Gurudeva, in fact I think that it's showing how much compassion, how he's the personification of the compassion of Mahaprabhu. Because I was just walking on the street, and nearby my house this time, it was not a good neighborhood, and I saw on the street, on a wall, near a kind of a pub, I don't know, a place where people would go to drink. And there was the photo of Srila Gurudeva in a poster. And then saying that the inviting to his lectures that would be on the next day and the next day after this one. So I was very impressed, and I looked. I could not understand really what it was all about, but I was impressed by his figure, and I was, oh, this sounds really interesting, really great. I will go there. And by this time, I remembered there was a friend this time, a person that was inviting me to go to the moves. And he was saying, let's go tomorrow. I said, no, I think I'd better go to this, to see this guru, this Indian guru that is coming here. And I went there, and I was totally impressed, I don't know, amazed, I don't know, so much impact to see Srila Gurudeva for the first time. And I was sitting there, so many devotees. This was the 2000 in Rio de Janeiro. And so many devotees, and he was speaking Harikatha, and everything was completely new to me. And he was speaking about niṣkiñcana pastime, the appearance of how he appeared to Prahlad Maharaj and all this. And then I remember Prabhupada, Ashram Maharaj just jumped in the middle of us and starts shouting, and I was very afraid. I said, what's going on? Why this big man is shouting here? And then I found out this was all about going on related to the speech, Srila Gurudeva lecture. And I was very impressed, and Srila Gurudeva was walking, and many people crying, all this going on, and I was just like, my God, what happened here? I don't know, but I'm so much attracted by this. And then on the next day, I decided to go back, and I invited my friend that invited me to go to the movies, and he asked me, but what he talked about, what it was about. I said, I have no idea, but it's so good. I really have no idea what it was about, but please come with me. And then we went there. Second time, it was the last day of Srila Gurudeva in Rio de Janeiro. So we standed, all the devotees just imitating all the devotees standing, and Gurudeva was coming, walking. And I was standing there in the front. I didn't know what to do. And Srila Gurudeva stopped and looked. And I was, some people touching his feet, some people talk, and I didn't know what to do. And I did not know. And he spoke to my friend, this devote, talked to him, and he went away. So all the devotees said that would be initiation the next day in another country, in another city nearby, like 2 hours from Rio de Janeiro. And I said, I would like to go, I want to go. And they said, but it will be very early, and there is no bus to arrive there, you need to go by car, there is no car. And I was saying, but please let me go, I want to go there. And finally they said to me, no, there is no place for you. That's the sad story, there's no place for you. And you cannot get there by bus, give up the idea. So I stayed in Rio, just like lamenting, and in fact this devotee who was by this time my friend, after he came to be my husband this time, and he was initiated, he went there. Because Srila Gurudeva told him that he should go. Personally, he stopped it, he did not talk to me, he talked to him and said to him to go. So I was waiting, and when this devotee came back, he was totally changed. Totally changed. Not only the hair was shaved, but changed. He said, from now on, I don't drink, I don't do this, I don't do that. And I said, oh, that's very great. Yes. I said, yes. I was already vegetarian. I said, yes, I don't do any of these things also. So we started reading and doing this kind of thing.
Like one time, I was in England. I was living in England. I was with the Ganga Matas. And I was doing that day, I was doing books alone in a very nice area and posh area, many nice people. It was good to do books there. And then this day we didn't have small books we had only like big books, bhogya-darśana, Jiva Dharma, only big books, and Brahma Samhita, and it was difficult to distribute these books on the street. So I was there and I was like trying hard to do, and nothing, no one was taking the books, and it was really cold. These parts of my fingers were like cracking and bleeding. And I was, oh my God, what's going on? Why it has to be so difficult? Why it's all these obstacles? Why I cannot distribute one book? Why no one's taking the books? And then I was like complaining to Gurudev. Why Gurudev, why are you doing this to me? It's so cold. I could be in my country, you know, doing anything, and I'm here. I don't speak this language properly. It's very cold. I hate cold. And I was complaining like that in my mind, and I was there, and it was getting dark, and I had to go back to the temple. And I was getting angry, and I was complaining to Gurudev. And then when I decided, okay, I'll just go back to the temple, I'll not stay here. And then when I was going towards the tube station, one homeless guy came to me, and he looked to the book. That day I was with bhogya-darśana. It was like really thick and big books. And then this guy, he came to me and he asked, hey, what's this? And I was, oh my God, I can't believe, because you know, in England, homeless people, they can be really, how do you say, violent sometimes. Like I was afraid. I was always afraid of homeless people in England. And this guy, he came to me like, really, what's this? And he was carrying many bags with clothes coming out of these bags. And I was like, oh my God. And then I said, oh, it's a Hare Krishna book, and we asking a donation for it, okay? So that he will leave. You know, when you speak about money, homeless people, they leave because they ask money, right? And then I was just trying to get rid of him. And then he said, oh, Hare Krishna book. Okay. And then he took from one of his bags, he took one wallet, and he opened, and it was really full of money. So much money. And then he took one note of 20 pounds, which like in that time, I don't know how it is now, but in 2008, people used to give like 5 pounds, maximum 10 pounds, like very rarely people would give like 20 pounds or like this. And then he gave me 20 pounds and he said, okay, I want this book. And then he took the book, gave me the money, and I was like, because exactly at that moment I was complaining, oh Gurudev, why are you doing this to me, this and that, why you don't help me, you know, this is for you, these books are yours, I'm trying to give you to these people. And then Gurudev did this, and I was like, oh my God, and I was, oh Gurudev, sorry, please. I was happy and sad at the same time, because for me I was like being like really childish, like a child complaining to the dad, oh daddy, this and that. And I was, after I was ashamed, and then I was praying, oh Gurudev, sorry, I'm being like this, and I should understand that you are always with me, and the difficult times are there for me to learn something, this and that. I was trying to pray, but that day I understood that Gurudev is always there, and he can do anything. He can inspire anyone's heart, and he's giving the books. I understood this, that he was distributing the books, not me. And that day he didn't want to give the book to anyone, only to that guy. And like this, Gurudev was always doing these small miracles in my life, and this is always what brings me back to these memories of him, to remember him, to think about him every time something bad happens, and I pray to him, like same moment something happens or something comes in my heart and I understand, and I stop to complain, whatever, you know.